Hello, class. My name's Ali Paramo, and I am going to share a book that I read with you and try to convince you to read it as well. The book I read is called Emergent Curriculum in the Primary Classroom. If you're anything like me, you've been wondering whether or not a lot of the student-centered learning strategies we've been learning are really possible to implement in our more traditional school settings. I've noticed that a lot of the videos I've watched or other examples that I've read about, these situations are happening in charter schools or in very affluent communities. Well, after reading this book, I can tell you that yes, we can implement student-centered learning strategies. In this book, you'll learn about how 9 educators who are teaching in classrooms that are very similar to ours were able to implement a lot of the strategies and concepts that we've been learning about in our class. These are educators who are teaching to a very diverse group of students. They have the same stressors that we have, which is having a lot of standards to meet. And as one of the educators described in her concerns, she says she was not sure if she would be able to implement emergent curriculum in a school system that favors product over process. And I think a lot of us can relate with that sentiment. So here's some more about the book. Emergent curriculum is inspired by the Reggio Emilia approach. It is a philosophy of teaching and designing curriculum that is centered around student inquiry. As the author described, in emergent curriculum, teachers plan in response to the group's interests and concerns. And it is this focus on the students' interests that helps to make the curriculum diverse to all of our students' interests and their needs. Questions answer questions. This is a cycle that our authors described in the Understanding by Design text that we have. According to the authors, the key to understanding by design is to cause rethinking through appropriate inquiry and performance. As you read along in the Emergent Curriculum book that I am encouraging you to read, you'll see how this cycle of questions answer questions manifests in the learning activities as they unfold as in the stories told by the 9 educators in this book. The 6 facets of understanding emerge in this book as well. They emerge as the guiding principles that contributed to the framework of the learning experiences that were developed by the 9 educators in the book. And they also emerged in the way that the students were learning, and the dialogue that they were having, and the questions that they were asking, and some of the writing samples that were provided in the book, as well as pictures of how students were applying what they were learning. And remember, here are the 6 facets of understanding on the right here. It's when students can explain, when they can interpret, when they can apply, when they can have perspective, when they can empathize, and when they have self-knowledge. Like in the journey from novice to expert described in the text that we read by Hunt, in Emergent Curriculum, the author describes and supports how teachers develop from challenge teacher to master teacher. So there's only 4 stages in this development compared to 5 in the journey from novice to expert. In the development in Emergent Curriculum, the author describes the different stages as the challenged teacher, the novice teacher, the practicing teacher, and the master teacher. It's really interesting to hear or to read different questions that teachers will ask themselves at each level of development. I think many of us will be able to relate to different parts of this spectrum. So if you want to learn what level you would be in, I highly encourage you to read this book. So whether you are new to teaching or if you've been in the profession for many years, this book will inspire you to take a chance to venture into uncertainty of not knowing where your students' questions are going to take the learning experience. but it's very inspiring to read about the different activities and experiences that these 9 classrooms had. Um, Here's a quote from one of the contributors to the book. She said, "The best way to incorporate an emergent curriculum project in your classroom is to read how other people have done it, think it through carefully, and just get started." So now that you know about the book, I think you should read the book. That way we can start putting into practice everything that we've learned up until this point. Here are my references, and thank you for reviewing my presentation.